A 7-month-old Palestinian infant was killed and its parents were wounded after Israeli forces opened fire on their vehicle in the Tel Rumeda area of the occupied West Bank. The incident comes amid escalating Israeli military raids, arrests and settlement expansion across the occupied West Bank since the start of the war in Gaza in October 2023. Meanwhile, Hamas says a delegation led by its Gaza chief Khalil al-Hayya has arrived in Cairo for a new round of ceasefire negotiations scheduled to begin on Saturday. In a statement, Hamas has said the delegation would meet Egyptian officials and mediators to discuss completing the implementation of the first phase of the ceasefire agreement, halting what it described as repeated attacks on Gaza and exploring mechanisms for moving to the second phase of the deal. The talks had originally been scheduled for Thursday, but were reportedly delayed because of Hamas's anger over continued Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip. Negotiations have largely stalled, with Hamas rejecting a disarmament proposal put forward by the Board of Peace, arguing that Israel should first fulfill its commitments under the agreement's initial phase. Both Israel and Hamas have accused each other of repeatedly violating the ceasefire that ended 2 years of conflict. Separately, several Palestinian factions are due to meet in Egypt to discuss Gaza's future governance and political arrangements. According to sources, the possible role of Mohammed Dahlan, a longtime rival of Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, is expected to feature prominently in the discussions. Meanwhile, the United Nations has warned that Gaza's growing solid waste crisis poses an immediate public health threat, particularly because temporary dumping sites remain close to areas where displaced civilians are living.
Past 3 months, our partners have transferred about 100,000 cubic meters of waste from the Firas market in Gaza to a newly identified dump site in Abu Jarad, but the new site cannot be fully developed or effectively utilized without specific fabrics, also called geotextiles, that have only now been approved to be brought into Gaza and are in the procurement phase. There's a need to secure Gaza's access to landfills close to the eastern perimeter.
And in the occupied West Bank, Palestinian farmers say they are rushing to harvest wheat crops amid fears of violence by Israeli settlers.
Our circumstances as farmers have become extremely difficult. When one of us sees his olive tree bearing fruit but cannot harvest it, and sees his crops engulfed in flames, I don't think there are any circumstances more difficult than these. These are incredibly challenging conditions for the farmer.